With the NFL back on TV, AJ Lee back in the WWE. Last call was back on Monday nights for you and for me. My name is Caden Colford alongside Jake Helton. And yeah, that was pre-planned. I was in the car this morning. I was thinking we got to open Last Call, yet another season of Last Call up with a bang. And it was a good weekend to do so because we had a lot of great stuff happen. We'll start with UINDY Athletics, a new volleyball team, a new program, new coach. How about Coach Case going 2-1 in our opening weekend in the UINDY Invitational? Starting off somewhat slow against Wisconsin Parkside, but coming back and winning against number 13 in the country, Jake.
Yeah, and I think back to that first game, they found themselves down by 2 sets. They almost got the reverse sweep against Parkside, and then you come out against the number 13 team in the nation, and you show them who's boss. It's a huge win, and as Coach Case said in her post-game interview, it was a great momentum builder. Something like that will propel you through the middle half of the season, trying to get you towards that conference championship. But you want to talk about a couple of big hitters. Paige Parlanti, she's exactly that. Coming in from Bowling Green, she's a transfer for Coach Case, and, well, she's been killing it quite literally, averaging about 9 to 10 kills per match. And she's the difference maker, in my opinion. You got some good middles in there that have really improved this team as a whole. But when I look at this team and what makes them better than the rest, it is those hitters.
You know, you talk about the middles and Lauren Gibbs. That transfer has been big. Maddie Lynch also having the best season in her young career, leading this team in kills. And obviously Paige Parlanti, second in kills and digs. She's been all over the floor for the Greyhounds. It's a great opening weekend. Can't wait to see what the 3-time All-American and Case can do with this squad in her first ever season at the helm. Should be a lot of fun.
Yes, she will, but some more action in the UINDY world. A football game didn't turn out the way the Hounds wanted, but it was an interesting one to say the least. Jace and I were on the call, and through one quarter, it was 0-0. We thought this was going to be a defensive battle, but just like that, both teams start firing off, and Finley ended up scoring 3 times in the final 3 minutes of the first half, and that was the big difference. There was a fumble on the kickoff, and everything went haywire from there.
Well, it's good to see it in week 2 before you get to see it in week 10 or week 11, depending on where this team gets towards the end of the season. Obviously, we have high hopes. This is a team that's nearly expected to win the conference, have a playoff bid each and every year under Coach Keevers. And what I thought was interesting, Jace, after talking with Coach on Friday morning, said this game is going to be a 4-quarter game. You don't hear Coach say that stuff unless he means it. And obviously every game is an important game and every team's a great team that you play. It's hard to win, but he knew this one was going to be a gritty one. They go into halftime and, well, you heard that it was a domino effect, right? Things just not falling into place for the Greyhounds. What takeaways do you have from anything you saw on the field?
The offensive line struggled a bit, and I think that's something you guys saw against Marion, which was a little bit surprising for all of us. But you come in and you got to perform like the number 17 team in the nation, and to me it just seemed like they didn't feel that while they were out on the field, just not getting a lot of push on the offensive or defensive line. They were able to run. They had to do Jaden Farmer, Christian Davis. He's a quick running back. They were just getting outside. Once they figured out they could get outside and take off, that was really where the Oilers found their advantage. But I would look to improve the run game if I'm the Greyhounds right now. That's where they're lacking a little bit. We were expecting a lot out of Sherelle and just not seeing as much production as I think they need. It takes a little bit of pressure off of Gavin Sukup whenever the running back room is doing their thing. Last year you had John Lewis doing that, the D3 All-American, and that really bolsters the game whenever you can go at them in both assets or facets of the game. And Gavin Sukup had a good game, 21 for 32, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception that was tipped at the line of scrimmage, one of those ones you can't really control. But when I look back at this game and what was the difference, they outrushed UINDY by 120 yards, and that just can't happen. You got to do something in the run game, take a little bit of pressure off of Gavin Sukup just to give him a little more time in the pocket.
Well, the good news is for Indianapolis, you have all the weapons to get back into the mix. Obviously, Sukup. In week 0 against Marion, we're looking at a 22 for 29 performance with 380 yards with 3 touchdowns. Plus, you had 8 receivers with 20 yards or more. You look at Finley, and the offensive production was still there, and you're scoring a lot of points. 35 on the day is more than enough for a good offensive outing. And Sukup, as you said, had a decent day himself. He had 5 receivers with over 30 yards in that matchup. But you look ahead to Ashland, which is one of the better teams that you are going to play this season, if not the best team. you get to play this season. That'll be Youth Day this Saturday, first home game as well for Indianapolis, and a great chance to get back on track.
Yeah, for what we're hearing, you're going to be seeing a lot of the same type of football, just kind of running it down your throat. They can throw the ball, but that's not really exactly what they're going to be looking to do. And the defense, that's something to keep an eye on for UINDY. But this Ashland squad, as of right now, they're going to come into this game ranked 17th. That's a big matchup for the Greyhounds. Lucky for them, though, the playoff format has changed a little bit. As long as they win their conference, they'll get an auto bid into the postseason. So that's a good thing for the Greyhounds. You don't really have to worry about this loss. But this next one, Coach Keevers is really going to want it.
Yeah, that is going to be a big out-of-conference matchup against Ashland. But then in the conference slate coming up, you'll have McKendree, which is not a very welcomed team here in Indianapolis. The Hounds don't exactly mix well with the Bearcats, as Truman State will be on September 27th. That's obviously one of the better teams in the conference year in, year out, and that's going to be huge.
They just went toe-to-toe with Butler. You wouldn't have thought it. They were down by a decent amount, 37-27, the final score against D1 Butler.
Wow.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's going to be a game to keep an eye on down the road.
So Truman State's up here in the middle. That's in a couple weeks. McKendree, not too far off. But really, there's not a lot of teams you can overlook here. And Keever's very good about going on a week-by-week basis.
Yeah, I'm questioning that Quincy ranking. Quincy just lost to Roosevelt. And if you know anything about Roosevelt, they're not too good at football.
So we might see some mix-ups on these numbers as the season progresses, but we're looking for some more Hound success both on the hardwood and on the gridiron as we move to Division I football when we come back on Last Call after this.
News. How much time we got? Okay. Coffee. I love coffee.
We're on the air.
All right. Good evening, I'm Chris Hammer, here to report the news for you. For your campus, local, and national headlines, UINDY TV News has got you covered. Wednesdays at 6.
It's not just the Greyhounds wreaking havoc in athletics. How about Notre Dame football, IU football, and Purdue football all having strong starts to their season? We'll start with the Fighting Irish. Well, not as strong as some might hope, but you play what was the number 10 team in the country coming after a national championship bid last year. There were high expectations, and you start the year off on the wrong end of things, losing to a really good Miami team, 27-24. Jake, is this the same Notre Dame team we saw last year?
I think so. I mean, this is about as close as you're going to get. Losing Riley Leonard is a big piece of that offense. But C.J. Carr has done a good job of filling that hole. And I think they're doing a lot better job than what I had anticipated. I didn't think this game was going to be as close as it was. But come fourth quarter, anyone really could have won that one. Miami and Carson Beck, he looked amazing. I mean, he looked like NFL form Carson Beck, what we were expecting last year, didn't see at all. This is a completely different guy. I don't know if his breakup over the offseason had anything to do with that, but this guy he's balling out of control.
Well, it would tear me up for sure, but it also helps when you have 20 years of experience at Division I level, right?
True.
Carson Beck, he's been around. He saw some great action at Georgia, now moving to Miami. He's got a great roster built around him, a great program overall, and this is a huge first win to get from Miami as they move up to number 5 in the country as Notre Dame drops to number 8. You think that's pretty fair given the game that we saw?
Yeah, I think the rankings that they have in there right now with the AP poll are pretty accurate of what you're going to see towards the end of the season, other than the SEC teams. You see, I think there's 11 or 12 SEC teams in the top 25 right now, another 2 receiving votes. So I think that's someplace that you're going to have to look for a couple teams to fall off. But I do like where Notre Dame is sitting right now. I think that later down the road, we're going to be looking back at this game as one of the bigger ones, but Notre Dame has a really big game this upcoming weekend against Texas A&M. That's probably going to decide whether they're a playoff team or not. They have to win that one, a must win.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the schedule for them, after Texas A&M, you'll have a game versus Purdue, which isn't exactly a ranked matchup. Boise State in 3 weeks was ranked to start the season, but after being trampled by South Florida, I doubt to see them back in the top 25 anytime soon. So really Notre Dame, a tough outlook as they look to work back to the college football playoff and maybe even a second straight national championship look. That Going to be very tough with Carr under center, but with Marcus Freeman at the wheel, this team can beat just about anybody.
Yeah, I like Marcus Freeman, and I think he's a great coach. I think that he's probably the only reason that they made it to where they did last year after losing to NIU. You had to have a good coach at the helm of your program to get them past that. I think that that's one of those things where it comes down to coaching. Can you coach your team through this, what some would say, season-ending loss? And certainly 3 years ago, when it was a 14 playoff, season over, you might as well just stop playing at that point. So for him to turn the program around, get them into that national championship game, they played some good teams on the road to making that national championship. And I think that they were well-deserving of that spot, and if they make it back, will be well-deserving of it again.
You know, Jake, it was hilarious because I remember myself last year after Notre Dame lost NIU, writing this team off, writing Riley Leonard off, and now Riley Leonard is on the Colts roster right now. So, I mean, that's a shot at me. I was wrong about Riley Leonard. I'm glad to see him in Indianapolis, and we'll talk about the Colts and their QB scenario later. But we make sure not to write Notre Dame off this year. Very strong team, and should be a very strong season to come.
Absolutely. Another strong team. IAU looking good, although their strength of schedule is not too strong. But as it sits right now, they are 2-0, two pretty big wins. I would have expected a little bit more against that Ohio Dominican. But I don't know what to think of this team. They're ranked 22. But do they deserve that 22nd rank? I don't know that this is the same team that we saw last year. We're going to see in about 2 weeks whenever they go up against Illinois, the number 9 team in the nation, what they're made of. But I just don't see it right now. There's no way that's a playoff team. Again, I don't care how many bad teams you put on the schedule. This team is not going to win a playoff game. Well,
it's hard to say that they will, but they will have a solid test in a couple weeks against Illinois. Until then, it's bottom feeder central, right? You mentioned the ODU game and also Kennesaw State. I think Kennesaw State gave us a lot better of a look of what this team can be. You have a new quarterback for IU and Fernando Mendoza, okay? And his first game away from Cal, moving to Bloomington. You play that Old Dominion school and you saw 27-14. Really? That's not the game that you wanted to see if you were Coach Ignetti, especially after dropping the Virginia series and that whole controversy of him adapting the SEC schedule format, right? Which is funny, but at the same time, you can't just ride the coattails of your season last year, and I think you know that. I like Coach Ignetti. I like this team. And I even like Mendoza, especially after his outing against Kennesaw State. But this team is going to need a big statement win here in a couple weeks against Illinois.
Yes, that's a must-have. I think I said Ohio Dominican. I meant Old Dominion. That's a D2 school. But, yes, they play Indiana State here in a couple of days on Friday. Obviously a must-win. I think IU has to go undefeated to make it to the playoffs. But we'll see in a couple weeks whenever they go up against Illinois. I might be eating my own words. But as it sits right now, I don't see them beating Illinois, and I don't see them making it to the playoffs again.
Well, that'd be a top 10 matchup. It would be a huge win. We are here to be proved wrong. Have we been proved wrong yet this season? No, but it's the first episode, okay? There's plenty of time, and I might just have to hide my head for a little bit as we look at the Boilermakers, 34-17 over Southern Illinois. They've had a pretty strong start, 2-0. Boilermakers aren't usually in the same sentence when it comes to the football field early this year, given Ball State was that first win.
It's a good start to the program, a new coach in there, and I think that's what you want to see, a couple of wins. Although they are easy games, you're looking at a Purdue team that barely won last year. Barely. I think they have 2 wins last year as well. And
so it's good to see the record just where it's at right now.
Yeah, that 2-0 probably feels good for Purdue fans out there, just a little confidence boost. But as you head into the Big Ten part of the schedule, I think things start to get a little bit worse for Boilermaker fans. It's a bit of a shredder this year with about 10 different teams in the Big Ten with a chance to win the championship, Big Ten championship, and make it to the playoffs. So I think when you look at Purdue, be happy with what you have, fans.
Well, be happy with what you got. That's Notre Dame, that's IU, that's Purdue. But the buzz around town, we're going to talk about Indiana Jones and the Indianapolis Colts in a minute on Last Call. See ya.
We'll leave it to our actual athletes. Watch UINDY TV's live sports broadcast on GLVCSN and YouTube.
I gotta say, I might just be in shock. The Colts won a Week 1 football game for the first time in 12 years. 12 years, and who did it? Who did it? It wasn't Andrew Luck, Matt Ryan. It wasn't Phillip Rivers.
Carson
It wasn't
Wentz.
even Anthony Richardson. Jake, it was Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, Indiana Jones that gets it done for the Colts, 33-8 against the Dolphins of all teams.
I don't think the Dolphins are that good, and I think Tua might need to go back to the medical tent for a little bit, but that is besides the point, and a very valiant effort by the Colts, and I was surprised the defense held as strong as it did considering where Lou came from in the Bengals, but 33-8 really shows off both sides of the ball. You get to see Daniel Jones in what I would consider his first chance. You look back at New York, they never helped him out. I mean, he was just kind of out there on an island, didn't really have much. You had Malik Neighbors at one point for like half of a season, then he got benched. So when I look at Daniel Jones, I look at these numbers, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 of those came on the ground, and that's the big number right there, 75.9. You want to know how many points that is more than Anthony Richardson?
Tell me, Jake.
It's like 25.
That's
25 percentage points better than Anthony Richardson's average last year.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. And the way I told it to Jace this morning was, if you are going to complete 25% more passes in most games, that's going to be 5 or 6 passes. That's 5 or 6 more chances to get a touchdown, 5 or 6 more chances to get a first down. And that can be the difference in some games. And in this one, it wasn't really the difference, but Colts coming out and showing that, one, Daniel Jones is the guy. I think we can all sit here and say that he's the guy, at least for now. He might have a little bit of a step back. It's hard to see him doing this every week, because if he did, he would be the MVP, which is a crazy sentence to say. But I do think that Daniel Jones is the guy here. Anthony Richardson, whether he sits for a year, gets traded, whatever they want to do with him, I think that this is your guy in Daniel Jones. I didn't see a lot out of Jonathan Taylor. He did a little bit better in the receiving game, which is something that you and I had talked about last year, wanting them to get him out of the backfield, just get him on a running start, get him the ball. They did that. I think he had 3 receptions. But in the run game, I would have liked to see just a little bit more Jonathan Taylor. He had 18 carries, just didn't have that breakaway play we were all waiting for.
I will say, as we go back to the QB discussion, this was best case scenario for Indianapolis, that Daniel Jones goes out and had the game that he did. And this is coming from a guy who was 100% Anthony Richardson until about 1:30 yesterday. So I still like Anthony Richardson, still like the talent that he brings, but what this does is Danny Dimes, he got the trust of Coach Steichen, he got the trust of the program, and yesterday he got the trust of Indianapolis, he got the fans. Because if he would have went out and had a so-so game yesterday, we're going to hear, oh, why is Anthony Richardson in the game? Why is Richardson sitting on the bench, and why are we letting this mediocre quarterback run the team, run the program, right? But he goes out and has the game of his life, and now I haven't heard a whole lot about Anthony Richardson at all, for better or for worse. I still love AR, and I still think that he can thrive as a quarterback in this league. But for Indianapolis and where they want to be, this was the best thing that could have happened. Now, that being said, Jake, we do not need a parade. This is a Week 1 win over a Miami team, and frankly, you can't go out and expect opposing quarterbacks to play catch with Cam Bynum every week. And I'm not saying that the Colts didn't play good, but I think this is something that you need to compound on. This is not our Super Bowl, not yet.
A lot of fans are going to be happy about the Daniel Jones. They're going to be happy about seeing 33 points up on the board, but I think what they should be more happy about is the defense finally back to true Colts form. I mean, this was the defense that we were seeing, 5-6 years ago, even when Andrew Luck was here, an elite defense. And I think that's what we're finally getting back to in Indianapolis, a team that can hold almost anybody to under 20 points. I loved the way the defense looked, just the looks they were giving Tua. They weren't just dropping back 4 or 5 men in a drop 3, but they were playing great coverage, just switching it up a ton, and I think that's really the difference. They were confusing. They even dropped a lineman back in coverage, and he intercepted Tua. So I love the different looks that they're giving, that they gave Miami, and I expect that to continue throughout the season. And we should look at this Colts team to be one of the top 5 defenses in all of the NFL.
Yeah, Latu getting that interception big for just a guy who's been in the league for a few years. We've looked at quarterbacks, we've looked at defense. One name in particular that I want to point out, I guess two at that, I'm thinking of Michael Pittman Jr. He was a guy that I've been super critical of the past couple of years. Super critical of because I feel like he's been overpaid, he's been out a lot of games, and when he's in, he doesn't perform very well. But you gave him a healthy offseason of work, and now a consistent QB situation, at least for the time being. He looked really good. And when your number one receiver is playing like your number one receiver, 80 yards and a touchdown on 6 receptions, those are great numbers. And you combine that with Tyler Warren, who I also think had a great Colts debut with nearly 80 yards himself.
I was getting ready to bring him up just after you had mentioned Michael Pittman. Tyler Warren, I was so happy to see the 9 targets next to his name. That means we're getting back to Colts football. That's just all this weekend reminded me of old Colts football. You got a pocket passer in there. Danny Dimes, he can get out and do a little bit of running, but for the most part, you stick him in that pocket, you give him a couple open receivers, he's going to get you a touchdown, and that's what we saw. But Tyler Warren, I was very high on the Colts picking him when we did our draft coverage, and I stick with my decision. I think that Tyler Warren was the perfect choice for the Colts to make in this draft, and 33 points on the board goes to show for that.
And I think a lot of fantasy owners are also very happy that they reached just maybe a round ahead of where they might have for Tyler Warren. And even Michael Pittman Jr. at that point. Do you have any Colts on your fantasy team, Jake?
I do not this year, I don't think. I have one where I do like defensive players, and I do have one, but I was going to pick up Pittman, but I was just too unsure of what was going to happen.
So I did reach to go get
not
Warren. I was talking about me when I was talking about Warren. And he wasn't the 25-point game, but I'll take a nice 12 for my tight end any given Sunday. That is for sure. Colts football might just be back.
It might be. But you want to talk about high-scoring games? Last night's Sunday Night Football, the first one of the season, a 41-40 barn burner between the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. And it was an elite matchup. You get to see number 1 and number 2 in the MVP voting from last year in Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, and it did not disappoint. Jace was saying something to me earlier about the kickoffs being the reason for why the games were being so high scoring. I just think these are two elite offenses that the other side defense just could not hold up. Derrick Henry, I think he's back to Derrick Henry. Not that he ever left. He kind of got overshadowed by Saquon last year, but I mean, he was throwing people to the ground again. He had almost 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, a phenomenal game from Derrick Henry, and then you add Lamar in there. That always helps.
Absolutely. One thing about Derrick Henry, his longevity as a running back goes very, very underrated, under notice, but it helps when you have guys like Lamar Jackson in that same backfield. This game, absolutely star-studded. What a way to kick off the season with plays like this. Plays like that right there from 2 MVP caliber guys, and then Derrick Henry.
That was the big play right there, the fumble. Changed the course of the game, and you wouldn't think it's Derrick Henry. I mean, I think he has, 10 times more touchdowns than he does fumbles? It's the stat, whatever it is ridiculous, but that ended up being the difference maker. You see them score right there. They didn't end up getting the 2-point conversion. They get the ball back, a chance to win, and that is exactly what they do. I don't know that the Bills deserved that win, but they went out and took it as the Ravens kind of just left the door open and they walked right through it.
Well, that's a scary sight for the AFC, I got to say. And the Colts, while they had a good game against Miami, if you want to be great, these are 2 teams that you are going to have to play and win against in the AFC. So it's not exactly a great look for Colts fans, but for football fans, what a Sunday night to get us started. But I will ask you, with the 2 quarterback stat we saw in Lamar, in Josh Allen, is it going to be those same 2 guys vying for MVP this year?
I mean, you can see the stats behind me right there. Josh Allen threw up some MVP numbers right there, almost 400 yards through the air and 2 touchdowns. That's a pretty good game, and you would think, seeing those stats from Josh Allen, that was a blowout game, but it was not. And I credit Lamar more than I credit the offense, just because I think Lamar is the offense. I don't think the Ravens are even close. You can throw Derrick Henry on that team. You take out Lamar, and this is not even close to a good team. So that's something that I always keep an eye on with Lamar and him staying healthy. This Ravens team relies on him, but I will say the secondary has improved over the offseason. As a team that the Bengals face twice a year, keep an eye on it. It looked pretty good. The score wouldn't necessarily tell you that, but they're going up against Josh Allen. I mean, it's always hard to compete against the Bills and keep that score low. I feel like they're always scoring up in the 40s.
I will say, even though the Ravens fall in this game by a singular point to a great Buffalo team, I do think the Ravens win the AFC this year. When you just look at the weapons that they have, Zay Flowers had a really great game. Derrick Henry had a great game aside from that fumble. And Lamar Jackson just doing Lamar Jackson things. Am I wrong to say that the Ravens still might be the front runner?
Yeah, I think right now, after week 1, you look at them. I look at the Packers as another really good team. They just added Micah Parsons, and I like Jordan Love. I think that's a pretty good team right there, and those are going to be my 2 candidates that I'll put up there early in the season. I'll wait to see a little bit more, but I really liked Green Bay. They've got a tough one this week against the Lions. I think that's going to be a good game to watch.
I'm a big Packers guy myself, I got to say. And I wasn't a big Micah Parsons guy until he came over to Green Bay, but I'll take it. Personally, I am a cheesehead. But we're going to talk some Packers football here in just a minute when we bring back the best segment in American television history. It's the Primetime Pick Em. Whether it be Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, or the Colts game, this is the Primetime Pick Em where Jake and I are going to give our thoughts on who is going to come out of that week victorious. We looked to last year. How did that go?
I believe I won.
Well, that's with football, with basketball, with the Super Bowl thrown in. There was a lot of extracurriculars here and there, so if you want to count it, count it. But I put an asterisk next to it personally.
Fair enough.
Jake took home the crown last year, but I'm back. I'm back, and I'm ready to be at it again. I'll say that for sure. First matchup on the slate as we hop right into it. The Commanders are going to Lambeau to Green Bay to play the Packers, who just killed the Lions in their Week 1 matchup, 27-13 that game. Are you taking the Packers or the Washington Commanders in this game?
I'm going to go with the Commanders. I don't know what got switched up in my brain, but the Lions and Packers just played yesterday. So I don't know what I was thinking with that. But I liked the way the Packers looked. I know I just talked about the Packers this, Packers that. I'm going to go with Jaden Daniels. I'm going to go with the Commanders. I liked them. I liked the Commanders in Week 1. I think they got it.
You know, we forget that Jaden Daniels was probably the best quarterback in the NFC for a really big part of last season, and that is a conference with, well, I was going to say Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy doesn't mean nothing, but you look at guys like Jordan Love, you look at guys like Jalen Hurts, and there was a rookie that was above all of those guys. So that's not a bad pick, but we're looking at a team with what looked like one of the best offenses in the league yesterday, with the best defensive player the NFL's seen in the last 5 years or so on that side of the ball. I have to go Green Bay personally, but I will never hate on a pick that takes Jaden Daniels to go win a football game. I like what he brings to the gridiron for sure. Moving to our second matchup, this is the Colts, and they play an AFC rival in what used to be Peyton Manning's Broncos. Broncos will be in Indianapolis, so yet another game of home field advantage for Indy, where I see the Colts really taking it to the Broncos. I loved the energy in Lucas Oil Stadium yesterday, and if that's something that you can continue to replicate throughout the season, you can make Indianapolis a very, very tough place to play. Lucas Oil hasn't had a lot to cheer about in the last few years. If you give them a team led by Indiana Jones and Daniel Jones with fan favorites coming to play week after week, I like the Colts in a lot of their home games.
I like the Colts as well in this one. Bo Nix had a pretty bad game Week 1. I'm not a huge fan of the Broncos. The defense is what's worrying me a little bit. Daniel Jones can do that against the Dolphins defense. Can he do that against a number 1 defense in the Broncos? I don't know. We're going to find out in just a few short days. But as for now, I have the Colts.
Super Bowl matchup from a few years ago. Chiefs playing the Eagles. Eagles are going to Arrowhead to play in Kansas City. Jalen Hurts versus Mahomes. Again, this is a matchup that we've seen time after time, and there's not a lot that you can expect from this game, or at least know what to expect from this game? Two high-caliber teams going at it with two high-caliber quarterbacks leading the charge. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to go with what I said last year for the Super Bowl. I don't think the Chiefs' defense can stop the run game of the Eagles. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and hopefully a little bit of A.J. Brown in there this week. Hopefully. Hopefully a little bit of him in there at some point. But you would expect it. Who knows what we will see. I'm expecting it to be a very good game, but I don't know that Mahomes is the same Mahomes. I don't know that the Chiefs are the same Chiefs. I'm going to go with the Eagles in this one.
I'm going to go with the Eagles, too. I still think Mahomes is probably your best quarterback in the league. However, Travis Kelce had a drop-off. Xavier Worthy, who I thought was going to come in and be your almost wide receiver one this year, takes a hard hit from Kelce, and he's down. I'm mad about that. I reached on him in a couple leagues to go get that guy because I thought he was going to be so good. But he's out for at least the foreseeable future at this point. I think that's a big knock to them. Also coming off a loss to the Chargers, which I don't think are as good as the Eagles. So if they can't beat the Chargers, probably not going to knock off Philadelphia.
I don't think so. Tough one indeed. As we move on, Giants and Cowboys. Look to you first, Caden. Some interesting games from both of them, both 0-1.
Both 0-1, and I think the Giants are going to be the first team of the two to pick up that one in the win column. Is there any specific reason? I'll tell you straight up. No, there's not a specific reason. I don't like the Cowboys at all. I don't think that the franchise overall is in a very good spot. Doesn't seem like people are very happy to wear that star on the helmet right now. Doesn't seem like people are happy to play under Jerry Jones. Doesn't seem like anybody wants to be a Dallas fan at this point, including a lot of Dallas's own team. And I think when you're experiencing that much malfunction inside a team, even in the front office, that does not help on the field.
I agree with you there. However, I do not agree with you on the pick. I'm going to be going with the Cowboys. I'm not 100% confident in this pick. It's more of a wishful thinking pick. I need CeeDee Lamb to do good. I picked him in like 2 fantasy leagues, and if he doesn't do good, I'm screwed. So also George Pickens, I was a little bit surprised that he didn't get in the action as much last week. I'll expect them to do a little bit better in the passing game. Dak did not look as bad as he did last year, though, and I think that's one positive to take away from that game. You were also playing the reigning Super Bowl champions in the Eagles. So I'm going to go Cowboys on this one. I think they have a little bit of an edge. I just did not like anything I saw from New York this weekend.
And then the last one, Chargers at Raiders. Jake, I'll look to you again as Jay Herbo takes on the Las Vegas Raiders now.
This was a tough pick, and the only thing that swayed me towards the Chargers, I mean, they did beat the Chiefs, so that gives you a little bit of confidence in them, but I saw a thing where Brock Bowers kind of like hurt his leg a little bit. He was limping towards the end of the game. I haven't read any reports of whether he's in or out. They'll come out in a day or two, but I think that's something that I'm going to keep an eye on there with that, and I'm going to go Chargers.
I'm going to go Chargers, too. Justin Herbert's my guy in fantasy this year, and he had a great 27-point outing, at least in my league, this last time up against the Chiefs. I think that's a good first week opponent, especially to establish yourself as a competitor in that division and in the AFC as a conference as a whole. I like where the Chargers are going. I like their weapons, and I like their odds to get a win against the Raiders. And that's going to do the Primetime Pick Em for today. Beautiful stuff, and it's great to be back. Gotta say, was Nathaniel Finch, Jake Kiefer, Graham Shear, Jace Hodge, Jake Helton. I've been next to almost all of those guys, and to be able to see this show grow into what it is today, we're expecting more growth this semester. Jake, happy to be here.
Happy to be here as well, and just ready to get back into the action. Love talking sports, and it's fun to be on Last Call.
It's fun to be on Last Call. Hopefully it's not too bad to watch either. Catch us every Monday at 6 on YouTube or Xfinity channel 1096. My name, Caden Colford, saying God bless. Good night.